Let's spice things up. Let's bring along a child. A bundle of fun. Oh, yes. So why did the child come into this world then? From the moment that child came into this world, all it did was cry. All it had to do was fight for its existence, fight for survival. You know how cruel the world is. If the world's so cruel now, you know how it's going to be like in 50 years' time. You brought a child into this world that's going to live for the next 50 years. You're not going to be around then. You know that no one gives you a free meal. But you brought your child into this world, didn't you? Which child goes to school because they really love to go to school? Did you bring a child into this world because you love the child? Or you love yourself? Did you not ask yourself, after us, who's going to look after all these things we've earned for ourselves? All our property, all our money? Someone's got to be the heir to all of this. You can't just pass it on to the next door neighbor. Can you? No. It has to be your child. So, let's bring someone along who can piggyback all this stuff that I've been piggybacking all along. Think. I'm giving you things to think about. By the way, I'm not saying children now go start hating your parents. It is thanks to them that you come into this world and now you have a great blessing that is this human life. If you weren't born a human, how would you be listening to this sermon? If you were a preta, if you were a spirit or a demon, or a being in the four great hells, how would you listen to this sermon? You wouldn't have a chance. Thanks to your parents, you were able to come into this world. But parents, you didn't bring them into this world because you loved them. So I'm thinking it from both perspectives. So you can't say I'm unfair. I asked my mother, why did you bring me into this world? She said, because I love you. I said, you didn't even know who I was. How did you love me? When you decided to bring me into this world, you didn't even know whether I was black or white, male or female, whether I was going to be disabled, handicapped. How many parents dish their children, throw their children into the toilet because they have come into this world and now they're handicapped? Why do they do that? Is it because they love their child? There's only one person you love in this world. Who's that? In your pursuit of happiness, you are prepared to do anything, including bringing a poor, helpless being into this world to fight for its survival. You will even do that. Are you feeling proud about yourself right now? Tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, then please correct me. From the child's perspective, entirely different story, I must admit. From the child's perspective, it is because the parents decided to do, or even by mistake. This is why Guru Swami says, even if you're a fatherless child, as in, you don't know your father, still, that man who might have raped your mother, and as a result of which she became pregnant, and therefore you came into this world, that is still your father. That man might be a drunkard, might be a waste of time, waste of space, but still, that's your father. That's from the child's perspective. Some parents, when they listen to these sermons, and sometimes children, they want to come and ordain. But parents say, no. Parents will come and listen to the sermons, but they won't send a child. Why? Because they love their children, right? If they love their children, and a child genuinely understands that the reason I'm suffering is not because of a conditioned world, it's because of attachment. But every moment I live in this world, all that people I associate tell me, attach, new film, let's go watch. New song, download, listen, beautiful songs. New restaurant, let's go try it. What's this? Attach. I haven't gone into that level on this sermon, but our regular listeners will know how with every chitta that arises and passes away, you're suffering. In future sermons we'll talk about that. Or you can listen to previous sermons. How with every second, you're suffering 1 billion times every second. Right now this might seem like fiction. Listen to sermons, or come along to future sermons, and we will talk about this stuff. But that is the truth. And when a child genuinely understands that, and they decide, enough is enough. Thank you, Mamma, Tata, that I have come into this world. But I have to make this the last time I come into this ruthless, meaningless, essenceless, futile existence. And for that I need the association of noble and moral people. Not these time wasters that I have to live my life with at work, at school, parties. I'm not saying all people out there are bad, but what I'm saying is, if they are not a Sotapanna, how many people you know are Sotapannas? If the world out there are not Sotapannas, then they have not understood what suffering is. For as long as they have not understood what suffering is, what are they trying to do? Change which factor? X or Y? X. Which is? Change a conditioned world to their liking. You can't blame them. That's all they know. So if that's all they're doing, what are they going to teach your children to do? Change the world to your liking. Will they ever find happiness doing that? Have you? Did your parents? Your grandparents? If they had no hope, what hope do your children have? Remember, they're going into a world 50 years from now. You're not going to be around after the next 10, 20 years. But your children will. Provided they're going to have a natural death. If the world that we live in today is so corrupted, imagine what it's going to be in 50 years. If you don't give them the gift of Dhamma, you might as well chop their heads off right now. Because if not, they're going to go and chop someone else's head. And for that, they will have to suffer for many millions of eons, again in the 4 great hells. All they're asking you, Amma, Tata, please teach me how to be happy. Please, I don't know the first thing about this world. I don't know what a doctor is, I don't know what a lawyer is, I don't know what an engineer is. People say these things out loud. Big people, tall people, fat people, they all come and ask me, Putta, what do you want to be? And I say, I don't know, I just want to be happy. And they say, no, you can't be like that, you have to have an ambition. You have to be a doctor. Okay. Now the child goes and asks Amma, what's a doctor? The child doesn't know any of this. All the child is asking you is, how do I be happy? And if you're teaching them, change X and you'll be happy. Why are you cursing your children? If you're teaching your children, up until now if you didn't know this, you can't be helped. You have an excuse. But now you know. Now if you're still teaching your children to be happy, change X, then you are the biggest curse that has been bestowed upon them. Yes or no? Am I saying something I shouldn't be? Am I corrupting your minds? Am I? Am I not speaking the truth? Tell me if I'm not, and I will stop. But this is the truth no one told me. For 30 years of my life, no one told me this. When I came across my Guru Swami Mahanse, that's when I got to listen to the Dhamma. But he always says, even now, to this date, don't seek refuge in me. Seek refuge in the Buddha, in the Dhamma, in the Sangha. And that is what I'm going to ask you to do as well. Don't seek refuge in me. I'm an entity. I'm a conditioned entity. But the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, they're not conditioned entities. The Buddha is not the person, which we have spoken about in the past. The Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha are ultimate truths. They will be truth forever. Attach yourself to the truth, you'll be okay. Attach yourself to a lie, that'll be the biggest fallacy. That'll be the biggest disaster of your lives. Okay, I think we've gone over time by a fair bit. Hope I haven't wasted your time. So, I know you have a long way back, just as much as a long way you came here, right? You've come here a long way, haven't you? Sure, man. Okay. The question you asked me, madam, you don't realize how profound it is. I can talk about it for the next 3 hours. But I'm conscious of time, so I'll give you a brief answer which does not do justice to the answer, but I can't leave you with a question. The reason we've been attaching ourselves to all conditioned things is because we thought they bring us pleasure. This is why you attached yourself to your children. This is why you attached yourself to your girlfriend, to your boyfriend, because you thought they bring pleasure. They are the source of pleasure. This is what you thought. You outsourced your happiness. Yes or no? Did you not always seek happiness from the outside world? Isn't this why if I put you in a dark room, you can't be there for 5 seconds? There is no noise. There is nothing to see. You can't smell anything. What do you want to do? Get the hell out, right? Why? Because you're looking for what? Happiness. And where does it come from? Outside world. So when you believe that happiness is in the outside world, and the outside world is nothing other than, like we discussed at the beginning, sight, sound, smell, taste and touch, then your expectation of happiness, your expectation of pleasure is bestowed on sight, sound, smell, taste and touch. This is where you look for happiness. But the problem with that is all conditioned things, including sight, sound, smell, taste and touch, are conditioned. For as long as there are causes, they will arise. For as long as there are causes, they will persist. And when the causes when it's time for the causes to go away, disappear, now it will cease to exist, pass away. Isn't this what you have attached yourself to? The problem is you have attached yourself to it. Now it's passing away. How is that going to make you feel? When did you ever cry because next door neighbor's mother passed away? When did you cry? You didn't, did you? No, but you cried when your mother passed away. So, is the cause for suffering passing away or your mother passing away? Is it mother passing away or my mother passing away? What's the difference in those two statements? Mother pass away, my mother pass away. Pick out the factor that's uncommon between those two terms, those two statements. My. So what's the cause for suffering then? My. What is my? Attachment. So when you realize that all these things I'm attached to only have the potential to leave me distraught, leave me in despair, leave me unfulfilled, unsatisfied and lamented, then you realize this is not a world worth attaching to. If the only thing your mind can do is attach to sight, sound, smell, taste and touch, just like all conditioned objects and entities, the mind will also arise and pass away. So when the mind passes away, if the mind is now attached to a sight or a sound or a smell or a taste or a touch, now the mind is passing away. Though this chitta, this consciousness is passing away. This is going to be a little bit deep. This is why I didn't want to touch this in this sermon, because we have some new faces. But when you ask a question, I can't leave you with a question. A chitta arises, passes away. In a chitta you have Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. This is all a mind knows. A mind doesn't speak any other language. This is the only language the mind speaks. Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana. The 5 aggregates. So when you see a sight, you're looking at a flower. In your mind, Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana have arisen. Why? Because you like it? Or is it because you don't like it? No, because there are causes. Conditioned. Cause and effect. Because there are causes, now you have the effect. But like all conditioned things, this chitta is also going to pass away. And when it does, you're still attached to the Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankara Vijnana that arose in that chitta. Now what's going to happen? It's going to leave you in despair. So then you begin to realize, the only thing that attachment ever brought me was suffering. Yes, we have experienced pleasure, but pleasure is only relief from suffering. To explain that, we'll have to talk for another hour at least. But time you don't have. But listen to all previous sermons, where we talk about how pleasure is nothing other than relief from suffering. I'll give you a really simple example. You have a toothache. Now you're suffering. You go to the dentist. The dentist pulls the decayed tooth out. Do you not feel pleasure? So to experience that pleasure again, what must you do? Get yourself a bad tooth, right? You're sat down right now in the posture that you are. But is this the same posture that you sat down when you came into this room? No. How many times did you change posture? You've forgotten, right? If the posture that you sat down in was the most pleasurable posture, then why did you change? The moment you changed your posture, you experienced pleasure. Why? Because you were suffering by that time. The moment you changed your posture, now you were relieved of the suffering. At that point, you experienced pleasure. But pain is starting to build up again. And then there's going to come another point where again you're going to shuffle yourself. When is it going to stop? For as long as you're here, for as long as you're in this world, for as long as you want to be seated, for as long as you're there, you're here, you're in existence, you're going to be suffering. These are the symptoms of the disease. So when you realize, nothing in this world ever brought me pleasure. Pleasure can only be experienced by relief from suffering. Whether it's physical or mental, still, relief from suffering. That's the only way you can experience pleasure. So we have to talk about this in more detail. In previous sermons, you'll be able to cover some of that. When you realize that, then you begin to understand sight, sound, smell, taste and touch never brought me any pleasure. But these are the things I'm attached to. So if they never brought me pleasure, and the only thing that they are capable of is bringing me pain and suffering, why attach? That is what anicca is. Vexatious. The only thing that they can bring you is suffering. That is their nature. Why? Arises and passes away. Why? Causes there, arise. Causes prevail, prevails. Causes go, pass away. That is their nature. If that is their nature, then the only thing that they are capable of leaving you with is suffering. They never brought you pleasure. That being the case, then this world is anicca. That being the case, attachment to this world is going to leave you in suffering, dukkha. That being the case, is there any meaning to attaching to this world? Anatta. Anatta, na artha. There's no meaning. Meaningless, useless, futile, essenceless. Not anitya dukkha anatma. I can't explain this in anitya dukkha anatma. This is why you have to understand this doctrine. Anicca dukkha anatta. Every time. So that was a very concise, very brief, like I said, I didn't do justice to your question. But thank you for asking the question because it might have been useful to a lot of people. If you come along to future sermons, then we can discuss this in more detail. But also, please try and find some time to listen to previous sermons. Because I don't want to talk every day about how I started my life and the things that I had to go through and the happiness that I sought in my life because, let begones begones. We need to talk about now and what we have to do from this point forward. But the reason I share some of my stories with you is because these are some of the dreams, goals and hopes and ambitions that you have for yourself. I went down that road. It's just a bad rabbit hole. Don't be the Alice that walks down that. Alice did it once. Let's not be another Alice. You have the Buddha. For as long as, what? You are alive. And you're going to be alive for how long? For how long as you like to be alive, right? For as long as there are causes that keep you alive, you will be alive. For as long as you are alive, you have the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. The only key to unlocking this mystery. The only key. That's why Natti me saranang anyam buddho me saranang varam. That's why Natti me saranang anyam dhammo me saranang varam. That is why Natti me saranang anyam sangho me saranang varam. I'm going to get a telling off in a moment, so I will stop. But really good question. Thank you. Listen to previous sermons. I think we've done about 70 odd sermons now. If not the very first ones, at least the last 10 or so, if you can, listen to them when you come along to the next sermon. Then, I don't like talking. I really because it's quite tiring. But when you're here, I can't just come and continue from where we left off last week, because it's going to leave a lot of you perplexed. What the hell is he going on about? Anicca? What's that? Rupa Vedana Sanya Sankhara? What is that? Yes, you've heard of it before, but you heard it, didn't listen to it. There's a difference. Okay. So if there are no more questions for now, we'll conclude the sermon, because I know you have a long way to go. And is that okay? You know the courage you had to find happiness doing all those things to try and change the world? You never gave up, did you? Now if you understand the Dhamma, if you have begun to at least understand that this is the only refuge we have, this is the only path to salvation, then don't give up. The same vigor, the same determination, the same resolve with which you applied yourself to seek happiness in the world, a path has been cleared up. It's open. All you have to do is use the same vigor, the same determination, the same resolve to practice the Dhamma. First listen to the Dhamma, become a Sotapanna, then practice the Dhamma. You can't practice the Dhamma without understanding it, and you can't become a Sotapanna without listening to it. You can't meditate and become a Sotapanna. You can't read a book and become a Sotapanna. You have to listen to the Dhamma. And that sermon has to be delivered at least by someone who's also a Sotapanna. Now that's not me saying I'm a Sotapanna. Don't infer. Okay? That's not me saying I'm a Sotapanna. But if you want to become a Sotapanna, you have to listen to a Dhamma sermon at least by someone who's a Sotapanna. Because those Margapalas are not things that we shout out to the world and talk about. It's a very personal, it's a very private thing. There's even a Parajika that the Buddha proclaimed. It was for a bhikkhu who claims that he has Margapala, or great human qualities, which includes dhyana, for the purpose of fame, for the purpose of glory, for the purpose of receiving goods and delights and pleasures. If you claim that you have these things, then you are a Parajika. So it's not something that we need him to talk about. But each and every one of you must make a firm resolve to be there, to get there. And it's down to you to go and seek them out. They are few and far between, but they're there. They are there. And how do you know a Sotapanna when you see one? They have an aura, right? What color is a Sotapanna's aura? Oh no, they can walk on water, right? No, they only walk looking down at the floor, right? That's how you gauge a Sotapanna? Are they in robes, Sotapannas? No. Are only men who are Sotapannas? No. Don't judge a book by its cover. Talk to them about the Dhamma. Discuss the Dhamma with them. See if the Dhamma that they preach to you is something that they understand for themselves, in the way that they describe it, in the way that they help you understand it. Is it coming across like something that they have practiced, something that they have memorized, or is it coming through the bottom of their hearts because they understand it? Is it coming through conviction? And does that Dhamma help you to extinguish the fires of Raga, Dvesha, Moha? But no matter what, don't judge people. Don't make assumptions about their Margapala. It's not something you can do. Only a Supreme Buddha can do that. Because you don't have the faculty that is required for that. Only a Supreme Buddha will ever possess that faculty. But there's no harm in making an educated guess, but that should only be for your own purpose. Not to go and share with other people, or even go and ask them, are you Sotapanna? What is it to you? Right? Has to be a very private and personal thing. Okay. Right. Let's conclude the sermon then. Before we do so, let us transfer the merits that we have all acquired to all those beings who deserve the merits, and all those beings to whom we have a duty to pass these merits on to. First and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, let us once again remind ourselves that it is because of the Supreme Buddha, the perfectly enlightened one, the unvanquished one, the undefeated one, the infinitely compassionate one, that we have the gift of Dhamma today. It is because he sacrificed himself, he went through all that torture, he went through all that pain to understand the Dhamma for himself, so that he could preach this Dhamma for the liberation of all sentient beings that we have this Dhamma today. So let us all take a moment to remind ourselves of that fact. And secondly, let us all take a moment to transfer these merits to all the Bhikkhu, Bhikkhunis, Upasaka, Upasikas, who, all the way down from the Buddha, protected and preserved the Dhamma in the form of the Tripitaka, and also in the form of practicing the Dhamma and preaching the Dhamma, and now that has passed down to us through the ancestors. It is thanks to them, it is thanks to their sacrifice, their dedication, their commitment that today we have the Dhamma. Even despite times where there were droughts, like the Beminitiasai, Bhikkhus and Bhikkhunis, Upasakas and Upasikas dedicated their lives to protecting and preserving the Dhamma. It is thanks to their dedication, it is thanks to them shedding their blood, sweat and tears that today we have the path to liberate ourselves from samsara. Therefore, may all the merits that we have all acquired today be transferred to them. If any of them have today been born in the woeful plains, may through the power of these merits they be able to redeem themselves from those woeful plains, be born in the blissful plains. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits also to all members of the Mahasangha, including the prelates, the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas, as well as all the members of the Mahasangha who have dedicated their lives to not only practicing this Dhamma but also the dispensation of this teaching for the liberation of all sentient beings. May they all be able to rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Also, let us not forget, taking a moment to remind ourselves that although you have come along to this monastery today, you have come along and perhaps you might have offered alms, maybe made offerings to the Sangha. Do not forget for a moment that although you are here today, it is the members of the Sangha, the Swamin Vahanses of your local temples and the Mehenin Vahans of your local nunneries that have always been by your side. Through thick and thin, come rain or shine, they have always been by your side. Through celebration and through misery, they have always been by your side to help you, to guide you, to assist you, and to help shape your lives so that you become good people. It is because of them that today you are able to understand the Dhamma. It is perhaps because of them that today you have some faith in the Dhamma. It is they who have dedicated time from their lives to teach your children, to send them to give them Dhamparsal education, as well as do seal programs and things like that. They themselves donned robes with one purpose in mind, with one determination in mind, and that was to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. However, today they have dedicated time out of their lives for your betterment, for your benefit. Therefore, may all the merits that we have all acquired today be transferred to them. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us take a moment also to transfer merits to everyone and anyone that might have helped make this event a success, from our Guru Swamin Vahanse, who has always been my teacher, and whose Dhamma it is that I practice and I understand and preach to you, as well as all the other monks resident in this monastery who look after the daily going-ons, as well as preparing the venue for this sermon by arranging this stage, which has been decorated as an offering to the Dhamma, not to me, but the Dhamma. It is they who have taken the trouble, made the efforts to make your stay here as pleasurable as possible, arranging furniture and making this venue available for your easy listening. Therefore, may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as the Anagarikas who are also resident at the monastery, as well as the members of the Dharmyo by Punyabhare, the trust charity, or the charity trust, members who dedicate their lives to making sure that this Dhamma is propagated, gets to you, and you're able to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. So may they all rejoice in the merits we have all acquired today. Also, let us take a moment to transfer merits to our parents and our teachers who have dedicated their lives to our upbringing. Through our very formative years, they have always guided us, assisted us, and showed us the way, helped us to abstain from unmeritorious deeds, helped us to fulfill meritorious deeds. So may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those ancestors that have predeceased us, mothers, fathers, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, nephews, nieces, grandparents, and so on and so forth, as well as our teachers, not just in this birth but also in our previous births. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as anyone and everyone who might have assisted us, supported us, given us any form of assistance in any way, shape or form throughout our infinitely long journey in samsara. If there is any debt that we owe to them, may these merits repay such debts. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful planes. May through the power of these merits they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to the members of the armed forces. It is thanks to them that today we have a country in which we can live in peace and harmony. They dedicated and sacrificed their lives to protecting and preserving our country, fought a 30-year-old long bloody war in which many people were injured, many people died. It is because they sacrificed their lives that today we are able to live in peace and harmony despite our differences, despite our difference in beliefs and opinions and so on and so forth. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today, as well as members of the police force who dedicate themselves to the peace and harmony of our country. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. It is thanks to them, ladies and gentlemen, remember that you are able to come along here in peace and harmony, listen to this sermon, because if it was not for them, you would not have the freedom of time, you would not have the privilege of time or this opportunity to listen to these sermons. So therefore, they all deserve the merits that we have all acquired today. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful plains, may they be able to redeem themselves. May through the power of these merits, they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all men and women who might have lost their lives in natural calamities such as the tsunamis, storms, hurricanes, so on and so forth, not just in Sri Lanka but throughout the world. There may be those beings who have been your friends, they have been your family, but also there may be others who have not been friends or family, but only in this birth. In many births in samsara, all of them will have been our mothers, all of them will have been our fathers, brothers, sisters, many, countless times. May through the power of these merits, if any of them have today been born in the woeful plains, they will be able to redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plains. May through the power of these merits, they abstain from their meritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer merits to all those men and women who have dedicated themselves to leading this country, developing this country, protecting this country. It is thanks to them that today you and I have the freedom of time and space to come along and listen to these sermons. If not for them, you and I will today have to be leading this country. You and I today will have to be developing this country. You and I will have to be protecting this country. Therefore, may through the power of these merits, they be able to abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Also, let us take a moment to transfer merits to anyone and everyone who might have helped you to get here today, either through providing you with transport, or perhaps by inviting you to be here, or perhaps by giving you a CD through which you got to learn about these sermons and came along. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. As well as that, let us take a moment to transfer merits to everyone and anyone who might be your co-workers, your colleagues. It is because of them that today you are able to be here today. Perhaps some of them are today looking after your ventures, your enterprises, your businesses, your workplaces, and thanks to them that today you are able to be here. May they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. Whatever shape or form, whatever way anyone might have helped you, assisted you, it might have been by offering you a glass of water, it might have been washing your clothes, ironing them, and these are the clothes that you're wearing right now. Whatever they might have done to help you be here today, to listen to this sermon, may they all rejoice in the merits that we have all acquired today. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may through the power of all the merits that we have all acquired today, in listening to this sermon, in preaching this sermon, in making offerings to the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha, in all the time that you have spent in getting here, in preparing for this sermon, and may all the merits that you have all acquired today, with every chitta that arose that was meritorious and committed to this cause, empower and energize many men and women just like you and I to become Arahatun Vahanses, and may we all be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahatun Vahanses on this blessed land in this very birth itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may you and I and everyone else who have come along, listened to these sermons, taken part, helped in any way, shape or form, be able to become one of those Arahatun Vahanses, one of those Arahat Mehenin Vahanses in the era of the Gautama Supreme Buddha itself, in this very human birth itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of desire. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of aversion. May I and all beings in all worlds be freed from the fire of delusion. May I and all beings in all worlds attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. May the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.